very pleased to be here at the famous rock store in the Santa Monica Mountains, where, of course, this is a famous meet and greet spot for bikers in California.
Good afternoon. My name's Rich Savko. I'm currently the owner of the rock store here in Cornell, California. It was started by my parents, Ed and Vern Savko, back in 1961 is when they originally bought the building. And it was just a general store, a gas station, and a phone booth. And here we are with all the changes some 60 plus years later. The least we can do is, show you around and tell you about it. Just going to walk you through real quick and show you some of the highlights of the place and explain about the history and answer any questions that you may have and stuff. What's kind of unique about the kitchen area here is you see there's an Indian on the wall there. And down by the trash can, there's a wolf underneath the windowsill down there. So how all that came about is in 1989 they made a horror movie here. And it was called Grave Secrets. And they brought a woman in here from England, and she lived here for a month. And she hand painted this whole kitchen based on the director's concept drawing, how he wanted this kitchen to look like when they made the movie here in 1989.
Okay.
So you can see the Indian between the two blinds.
Yeah.
So there's the Indian between the blinds. You can see the benches down here. That's that bench down there and stuff. So we've never changed the kitchen painting scheme since 1989 when they did that original horror movie.
Fantastic. And you've had it all that time?
My parents bought the rock store in 1961. Wow. I'll show you a picture of it over here in a minute, what it looked like when they first. So this is the pictures of my father Ed and my mother Vern, and like I was telling you, they bought the store in 1961. Okay, wow. So when they originally bought it, it was the rock store. Okay, a phone booth in a separate building as a gas station, workable gas station. Okay, that's how it started. All right, since that time, all this has been added on over the years. Okay, now this is another dining room upstairs here. They recently filmed Father Stew with Mark Wahlberg here.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and there's two scenes at a bar in the '90s that take place, and both of them were filmed right here. This is another movie prop. It's not a real tree, obviously. It's a piece of plastic. And there's Jay in the parking lot parking lot with his Vincent motorcycle.
Oh, Vincent! Wow, is that a British one? It's got British plates on it still, hasn't it?
Yeah. And you can see Jay's got black hair and skinny jeans on. This is the original gas station out there. And look at all the motorcyclists in 1979.
Really in the 70s.
Yeah, from the 60s and 70s. Anything that has to do with motorcycles. Another BMW, they built this G310R motorcycle, and they shipped 50 of them from Germany. See them all here? And they brought them to the rock store, and then they brought writers and journalists from around the world. And every day you would get out there and they would give you the keys to their bike and say, look, go ride our bike.
Yeah.
Come back at the rock store at noon. We're going to feed you lunch. And then we want you to talk with all our engineers, production people, advertising and all that, because they wanted to make sure they had that bike right for all types of riders when they left the rock store about a month later. Fantastic. So every day for, they would, do the same routine, trying to get all types of riders and with all types of experience to ride their bikes. So they want to make sure they had it right. And the last day they were here, they had this bike, and this is my mother, myself, and my mom. They had that bike up there, and these are all the marketing people from BMW. And they go, Rich, we have something for you. And I go, yeah, and I was all happy. I says, boy, I'm going to get the first bike in the United States. I was like, well, the only thing they could give me was a tank cover. They had to take the rest of the bike back with them, but it means a lot because the guy drew that free-handed in the parking lot. See, with the rock store, just with a marker. So there it is. This is Mulholland Highway, famous road. You know, it's real twisty and stuff, and it's about 3.5 miles long from about the rock store to the top up there. And we'll take a little walk out there, and I'll show you what it looks like up there. But when the Woolsey fire came through here about 4 years ago, they had some damage up there, so the road's been closed and still closed now, waiting for them to complete the repairs up there and stuff like that. But this is after the fire went through, and we had torrential rains in January the following year. This part of the roadway got washed out, so that's why it's still closed, because they have to repack all that and bring it all back up to the top. But this is what it kind of looks like, and on these long boards and stuff like that, and gravity cars, and Santa Claus went down one year. Some fire. And these guys here aren't on the bike, but this is the Heritage turn up there, and you know, they're just kind of, you know, out in the road acting like they're going through the turn.
Fantastic.
But I made this guy here famous. You know why?
Go on, tell us.
He's got the wrong knee down, right? Going into the turn.
Yeah, right.
And do you think his buddies tell him no? This is the back wall of the original rock store. Okay, when they bought it in the 60s, all right?
Right.
So we just opened up this part here, and then we built up and out, and then, you know, the patios and everything else over the years. Back in 1991, my dad and Sonny Barger, you know, the president of Hell's Angels, are on the porch there. And my dad told Sonny Barger, he says, "Look, Sonny," he says, "I can't take your guys fighting every weekend, you know, moving bikes and stuff like that. You know, we got to do something." He says, "Well, what do you want me to do, Ed?" You know, and my dad told him, he said, "Look," he said, "I only have two things. One, I want everybody to respect the rock store. And two, I want all motorcyclists welcome at the rock store. No matter what you ride, as long as you respect the place and take care of it, you're welcome to come." So with all that being said, they brought the sports guys and the Harley guys, and they made them sign a truce out there. Wow. And they go, "On this, we must agree." And from that day forward, now it's all neutral ground for all motorcyclists at the rock store.
Wow, that's brilliant.
I know.
What a great story.
It is. Up the street here is a place called Seminole Hot Springs, which is right around the corner here.
Yeah.
And back in the 50s and 60s, it was a sulfur type hot springs, all right? And they had, you know, cabins and pools and restaurants and, you know, everything else up there. Yeah. And what people would do every Sunday, everybody from Hollywood would follow Mulholland and come up to the hot springs. That was the drawing point, the central drawing point. Because at the time, FDR, if you'll remember, had polio. Right. And he would get on national television and say, "Look, if you want to prevent or cure polio, you have to soak in a sulfur type hot springs." Okay. Well, this happened to be the only place in California, well, one of the places in California with that type of, you know, sulfur. So that brought all the traffic up here every Sunday. And as legend goes, Steve McQueen had his old Triumph motorcycle, and he didn't have a kickstand on it, and he used to park it or lean it against that big oak tree out there. Yeah. And then when the people would go up the street to Seminole Hot Springs, they would notice the motorcycle, and they would say, you know, "Hey, why is the guy riding a motorcycle in the middle of nowhere?" You know. And then they started exploring all the canyon roads around here, the Deckers and the, you know, Latigos and Encinal Canyons and all that sort of thing. And, you know, word from that point got out, man, this is a great place to ride motorcycles. And then it became, you know, like the motorcycle mega, you know, ever since that point on. So that's kind of what brought him here.
We heard that he managed to get a free beer from your dad, was it?
Oh yeah. There's so many stories that go on over the years and stuff like that. Steve McQueen, and I think that's how he ended up in the restaurant. You know, my dad told him, you know, "Hey, you ought to start selling food," because this was just like a general store.
Yes.
You know, because it's part of you're going to see here in a minute, it's part of a stagecoach stop. Oh, and this is the general store where they bought all their supplies for the journey. There's a rock house which is directly behind us, Okay, that's where the travelers would sleep in quarter up there, and then they would get their supplies out of the general store, the rock store, because it's made out of rock. And across the street, you're going to see there's a rock barn. That's over 100 years old over there. That's where they kept all the livestock across the street.
Wow. The original icebox. Wow. And it's still going strong.
Yeah.
Wow.
Look inside. It came from the museum, yes.
Okay.
They're all originals from the family to present, given to my mom and dad many years ago and stuff like that. So in the 30s. So here's the gas station right out there. Okay, used to be a Union Products, and this is the store here, and this is the big oak trees out there all overgrown, and I don't know, this looks like a shed of some type here. But this is from the 30s.
So it's kind of a big responsibility, isn't it? With all this history, how do you feel about managing it now? Is it...
Yeah, it's it's all about history and families and motorcyclists and a good reputation throughout the world. People, like yourself, they come from around the world because they've heard of the rock store and just wanted to experience it and stuff like that. So there's some big shoes. We've gone through some. I was here during the last Woolsey fire, and it burnt, right next door here and stuff like that. So, there's, I know my mom and dad, they spend a lot of hours here and stuff like that. So it's not a big money maker, if you will, but it's all about family and motorcyclists and how things change over the years and good friends. And there's no, we still get, the one percenters come in, the Hells Angels, the Mongols, whatever, but they all respect it, and they all, they just want somewhere to go and feel like it's part of their home, and I think that's what we provide here.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And do you ride yourself?
Yeah. Matter of fact, well, here I am. There's one. Where's my fat boy? Now I have a fat boy. Harley Davidson fat boy. Yeah.
It's there somewhere.
It's got to be. It's here somewhere. A lot of police. It's amazing that you can get so many. And years ago, to be honest with you, when it was I'll have to go back to the Hells Angels territory times in the 50s and 60s. When you drove by, you would see so many motorcycles, and people would roll up their windows and lock the doors.
Yes,
that was the image that it was back then.
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah. And now it's completely different. Different. Now you have women riders, you have, and what's fun is you'll see like generations, so you'll see the father, the grandfather, the grandson, and they'll all take their pictures on the steps there, like this, every year,
Fabulous.
So it does mean a lot,
So what was it like growing up here with your dad and all these rock stars and famous people hanging out, and that must have been like seventh heaven for you, or were you just used to it?
My dad found it because he was a bread delivery salesman.
Okay.
So he used to deliver bread up here. Yeah. And the woman that owned it at the time, she owned the Rock House, which you'll see in a minute, the Rock Store and the gas station. All right. And my dad, back in the 60s, she says, I just had enough of this place. If I had a half a brain, I'd sell the place. And my dad said, well, let's talk,
Yeah.
And he bought the store, the gas station, workable gas station, and a phone booth. That was it.
Okay.
And the tree, that was it. So everything else has been added over the years.
And which is the phone booth got?
Yes, phone booths were all right. And then my brother and I used to pump gas when we were teenagers out of these pumps here.
Fantastic. I used to do that
in
England.
Yeah.
My dad had a petrol station. I used to pump gas.
And we used to wear the little hat and check the
Yes.
air in the tires and
Yeah,
check the
yeah.
oil.
Clean the windscreen, yeah, all that stuff.
Same thing, yeah.
Yeah.
Same thing.
Brilliant.
And then in 1968 I got drafted in the military. And then
Oh,
I
okay.
spent 45 years in the military between
Did you
the
really?
Air Force and the Army, yeah.
Wow.
And then, and then life went on and stuff like that. And then
So where did you go when you were in the military? Where were you posted?
all over. Yeah, I was all over the place. My Air Force career, my claim to glory, if you will, I was one of the advanced pilots for the Air Force Thunderbirds. The air demonstration.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then after
That's serious stuff.
yeah, then after I finished my career with the Air Force, I happened to be working for the Army at the language school in Monterey,
Right,
in
yeah.
Northern California here. So I spent another 23 years with the Army up there.
Wow.
So I have like two pensions. I have an Air Force pension and Army pension. And
I'm going to come and live with you.
yeah. And here I am.
Fantastic. And so did your brother keep this? Your
No, my
parents
brother.
are still here?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah. Both my parents are passed on.
Yeah.
My brother was he was a firefighter in L.A. and he was killed in the line of duty there years and years
Oh, I'm
ago.
sorry.
So and then I have an older sister who lives up north here in San Luis Obispo area and stuff like that.
So how did you come to take it over? At what point did you come? You came back after the army?
Yeah, I came back after the Army, and my mother started, my dad passed on about 10 years ago, and then my mom ran it for a few years there. Then, she got up there in age and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So, it just, but I was just up in Monterey, so, I could make the trip without too many problems or anything like that.
Sure.
And then it became a point where my mom couldn't handle it anymore. And so these are our pumps. So my brother and I,
Yeah.
we used to pump gas here, obviously, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And as you can see, the last time we pumped gas, it was 37 cents a gallon. So
Wow.
for $7.80, you got 27 gallons of gasoline.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
But I've got a big problem now.
What's that?
I can't sell you $10 in gas.
Why?
You know why? We don't have enough digits, right? It only goes to $9.99 and it shuts off. Nobody in the day thought, there's nobody
It's
that
never
can buy
gonna go over $9 worth of
And here we are, almost $10 a gallon.
Wow.
And these
Yeah.
used to light up and spin, so you knew
Yeah.
that you were actually getting
Yeah, they
fuel.
filled up with
Yeah,
a few. You could
yeah.
see, couldn't you? It came through.
And years ago, we used to have the glass on top of them,
That's
and they
gone,
would fill.
hasn't it?
Yeah. Then when he switched over to be a private, and we used to put bulk oil in here,
Yes, and then you
and
can
then
pump it. Two strokes coming through. Yeah.
just pump it right through here.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
then put it in the the tanks and stuff like that, and then at the end of every sale, we'd have to ask our customers, "Sir, would you like your green stamps today?" Remember?
Oh, yeah.
Remember?
We had them in England as well. Green Shield stamps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So when was the last time this was pumped? Did you say?
Everybody asked me.
A long time ago.
Yeah, a long time ago. I've got to say probably in the mid 70s.
Yeah.
Because
We
I
could
got
probably
drafted.
check it out.
I got
37.9 per
yeah,
gallon.
yeah,
We can look at when
I
that was.
I was drafted in '68 and
Yeah.
left for the military and stuff like that. So, my dad couldn't do it. Because he still had the bread route and that sort of thing. So,
Okay.
And my brother had his career. So, I think it shut down probably about the mid '70s. And
Okay.
we had to pull the gas tanks out and all that sort of
Yes.
stuff. But thank God my dad had the fortitude to keep the pumps. And
Yes.
now we make more money using it as a movie prop than we ever
Fantastic.
made.
Fantastic. Brilliant.